President's former campaign chairman Paul Manafort is returning to court this morning for the first full day of his criminal trial, the only case brought by the Special Counsel Robert Mueller to go before a jury so far. NBC's Justice correspondent Pete Williams is at a courthouse in Alexandria. Pete, good morning to you. So what can we expect in court today?
Well, today the jury will hear from people who know about Paul Manafort's work overseas. And that's what this trial is about, not about the 3 months he spent as Trump's campaign chairman. Robert Mueller's prosecutors say he made millions doing political consulting work for the government of Ukraine and its former president, Viktor Yanukovych. But they say he stashed about $15 million of that income in foreign banks to avoid paying taxes on it. And they say he lied to get millions in loans, in bank accounts, loans on the homes he owned here in the U.S.
And Pete, up to now, we haven't really known what the defense might be. Do you have a better idea now of what they're going to argue?
Yeah, we heard about that here in court for the first time since Manafort was arrested last fall. And his lawyers say that his problem was that he trusted his right-hand man, Rick Gates. They say it was Gates that hid the money from the IRS, and they say Gates was embezzling money from their lobbying firm. He'll be a key witness here. He pleaded guilty earlier this year, and he's cooperating with the prosecutors.
And Pete, is the jury hearing anything about Russian meddling or President Trump? Because this trial isn't really about those things.
Right. The name Donald Trump was never spoken in court, and Mueller's prosecutors say that the name Russia will never even be spoken by any of their witnesses. It's likely that Mueller wants to question Manafort about that. And if Manafort is found guilty, they could try to compel him to talk about it. But if, on the other hand, Manafort is found not guilty, that would be a blow to Mueller's prosecutors and would undoubtedly embolden their critics.
All right. Pete Williams in Alexandria. Pete, thanks.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.